This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, the PLP deputy leader sounds the alarm on two areas of concern from the recently released labor force survey. Plus, the PLP hosts a special one-day convention to review its constitution for the first time in more than 60 years. And police continue investigations into the country's latest homicide.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Deputy Leader of the Progressive Liberal Party, Chester Cooper, is weighing in on the latest labor force statistics released yesterday. Despite the national unemployment rate remaining virtually unchanged, the opposition's shadow minister for finance highlighted the increase in youth unemployment and discouraged workers as areas of concern.
This government must do more to inspire confidence in the economy, inspire young people to seek opportunities through entrepreneurship, and inspire the business community to continue to invest in the economy.
And it's those critical factors PLP Deputy Leader Chester Cooper says are needed to further grow the economy. The latest labor force survey released Friday indicates joblessness in the country decreased marginally from 10.1% in November of 2017 to 10% in May of 2018. Most alarming for Cooper, however, is the increase in the youth unemployment rate, which went up by 2% from November to May and now pegged at 24.1%.
Since May, as you're well aware, there were graduations from high schools, graduation from colleges, and young people, thousands of them, returning to the Bahamas in search of gainful employment. So I am deeply concerned about that in particular. I'm concerned that the government isn't doing enough to create jobs.
But according to Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest, government is working to combat the rise in youth unemployment by investing in human capital.
The government is taking some proactive steps to try and intervene through this IDB supported program for job skills development. $20 million loan that we took yesterday. The idea behind it is to encourage young people between the ages of 18 and 40 to develop skills that for jobs that we know exist today.
Another element of the preliminary report Cooper found alarming is the increase in the amount of discouraged workers, which ballooned by 6.9% over the 6-month period. Cooper says it shows a pessimistic view those discouraged workers have towards finding jobs and the growth of the economy.
The government must inspire confidence in the economy. They must do more to speak to many of the things that the former government may have left in the pipeline by way of foreign direct investments, some of the projects in Grand Bahama and Exuma and elsewhere, to inspire confidence in the Bahamian people, in the young people, that there are opportunities out there to either engage in employment or to find and create opportunities for themselves through entrepreneurship.
And despite the unemployment rate on Grand Bahama and Abaco rising to 12.4% and 10.7% respectively, Cooper says there are many opportunities on some of the other islands.
We know that there's close to full employment in Exuma as we speak. Exuma is having a banner year. Occupancy levels are extremely high at all of the resorts across Exuma, from Lumina Point and Stockton Island to Sandals and Grand Isle and straight through the Keys. We also know that vacation rentals has become a huge business in the island of Exuma. It's difficult now for persons who are moving into Exuma to work to find long-term accommodations.
Although we're 4 years out from the next general election, members of the Progressive Liberal Party are readying themselves for battle to regain the trust of the Bahamian people and take back the government. For the first time in its history, the party is looking to make major changes to its constitution. Scores of PLP members gathered at the Holy Trinity Activity Center today as the party held its one-day Constitution Convention. PLP leader Philip Davis addressed the body this morning.
As we rearm and reposition ourselves, we must ensure that our party reflects the reality of these times. It is essential that we are on the cutting edge of reform. It is essential that we infuse in our party with new young talent that will propel our nation forward into the future. It is essential that we continue to ensure that the mechanisms, procedures, and the way we do business as the Progressive Liberal Party are current, relevant, transparent, alive, and appealing.
The Constitutional Review Committee has spent several months canvassing the views of PLP members on its constitution. It's those recommendations that party delegates will vote on whether they are in support of or not. Davis says the changes are needed to make a stronger and more transparent party and at the end of the day, return the PLP to power.
We meet in a mode of rearmament for battle. Battle not amongst ourselves, but a battle with them. We are sharpening our swords and burnishing our shields. We are steeling ourselves and making the necessary preparations to meet our opponents head on. And I say this to you this morning, we will win the next general election.
We will have more details on the outcome from the convention in tomorrow's newscast. Well, from the crime beat tonight, police continuing investigations into a double shooting yesterday that claimed the life of one man and left another with serious injuries. Police say the incident all unfolded shortly before 6 p.m. yesterday when three men were sitting in a vehicle on Carmichael Road near Bacardi Road when an armed man approached and shot two of them before he fled the scene. Now we understand the victims were able to drive themselves to the Flamingo Gardens Clinic, where one of them was later pronounced dead. As for the second shooting victim, he was transported to hospital in serious condition, while the third man was unharmed. Meanwhile, another man is also in hospital in serious condition, the victim of a stabbing incident. According to police, two men were driving along Boyd Road yesterday evening around 7 when they got into an argument. The driver of the vehicle reportedly struck the passenger to his head with a bottle and stabbed him about the body before crashing into another vehicle. Now, the victim was transported to hospital by ambulance. Meantime, the driver was taken into custody and is assisting police in this investigation. As the country struggles to get the root of crime and violence, one psychiatrist says the hurt child is the smoking gun. Dr. David Allen says around the world, research has found that the majority of crimes are being perpetrated by individuals between the ages of 16 and 24, and the Bahamas is no different for one simple reason.
But the real issue, the smoking gun, is the hurt child. The school killings in America, the hurt child. If you don't get the hurt child, you're going to have a murderous or violent adult.
Addressing the 36th annual convention of Calvary Deliverance Church on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis renewed the call for hangings and capital punishment to resume, saying crime and violence, particularly gang violence, is fueling a culture of death. Well, based on the work of Dorothy Lewis at Yale, Dr. Allen says researchers have found that when kids are abused in their early childhood years, they are more susceptible to violence in their late teenage years.
He's hurt at childhood. Sometimes he's born to a single parent. Sometimes there's no father. Sometimes there's not enough food. But sadly, many of our kids have different types of abuse. They get physical abuse. They get verbal abuse. And even sadly, sexual abuse. And so
that, he says, begins the journey of the child through the hurt trial and evil violence destructive tunnel. Once hurt, Dr. Allen says further trauma leads to the child being split.
They say, Doc, it's great when you win the dice game. Doc, it's great when you get the girl. But when you lose the dice game, when you lose the girl, something deep opens up inside of you. That's called the shame hole. So they're So now they have to protect themselves. So they have what's called a shameful self. They get self-absorbed. They get their drug. The drug right now in Nassau for young people is the gun. If somebody takes their girl, takes their drugs, or attacks their gang member, this sparks off another kind of situation in their heart, and they enter what's called the even violence tunnel. And in this tunnel, they become totally destructive, either themselves or to other people. Now what we find is after they do their violence or even killing, they may calm down for a while, but then the pain seeps in.
Dr. Allen says the first act of violence may be painful, but if the violence continues, the hurt child becomes a changed person.
Because once you kill more than once, you're not safe, because somebody is out to get you. And as you know, revenge in our research shows is perhaps the commonest cause of killings in Nassau, particularly today.
The Cabinet Office announcing that there will be an official funeral for former Cabinet Minister, the late Fenton Nimore, on Thursday, August 2nd at Christchurch Cathedral at 11 a.m. The former State Minister for the Environment passed away on Monday, July 23rd. He was 53. His body will lie in state in the foyer of the House of Assembly on Wednesday, August 1st, from 9 a.m. until the body departs for the church on Thursday, August 2nd. Viewing for the general public will be on Wednesday between the hours of 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Nimore will be buried at Woodlawn Gardens Cemetery. We will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight, find out how the Civil Aviation Department plans to crack down on hackers. That's coming up when our news returns.